Hi everybody and welcome back. This is a kind of quick review of this model provided by Das WERK. It's a German company, I think of course with the production in Asia. About this interesting stuff is the 8.8 flak auf 9 ton Vomag. Vomag was a company making mostly urban buses, you know, the dimension is the typical one of a huge bus of the 30s, and Vomag was one of these companies making them. Of course, during the Second World War, they were being modified to be the Flak I think in Germans means Flugzeugabwehrkanonen. That means the anti-aircraft guns. That was a 88 millimeters, and the Nazis had very different type of big guns for the constant bombing of their territory. So mostly it was the 8.8 plus the I think it was the 120 millimeter used on the hunting tiger, so the even bigger one, and they were incredible machines. There is of course very interesting inside this box, and that was a little bit surprising because despite it's a quite expensive box, I think it's something that is around 80 euros, 80 something like that. You can pay 75, you can pay 85, but on the range about 80 euros. A very recent model, so it's not a box from anybody else. And what is extremely interesting is that they made, first of all, a very nice artwork. Is also very important, I think, the art box of this model, you know, it's really well done. It's really like a paint, you know. And they have also on the side of the model this interesting paint scheme. There is not so many documentations about these vehicles, you know. I have something on my books in my library, but there is not so much, you know. Instead, the box is providing everything you need to do something absolutely good, you know. That is the address of the company. As you can see, is registered like a German company, you know. But it's surely something that for the quality of the mold have been made and produced in Southeast Asia, you know. Remember that the Asiatics have the nicest molds ever. The most skilled people producing plastic molds is from that side of the world, you know. And as I said, you know, the Vomag is basically kind of a commercial vehicle, you know, also with the suspension, kind of bogies suspension, you know, still not really the American bogies, but that type, you know, of double bridge suspensions, you know, and with spring, of course. And they provide a kind of scheme to give you a kind of documentation of what you can do with the model. And what is extremely interesting, I cannot show you exactly what is inside the box because there is, I think, something like 20 sprues of plastic, you know. The box is huge. The box is absolutely huge, and that is the code if you're interested in that. And I was saying that the very nice and interesting part of this box is, in my opinion, that they provide, instead of doing like they did back in time, that you have to buy the model and then is of course up to the modeler to search the proper documentation, and that can be time consuming because you have really to dig of documentation that mostly have been made in the past, because modern documentation, you know, with the possibility to find information via internet and in a website and inside forum, of course there is much less diffusion of books and proper documentation. My idea is always that if you have a real book talking about the vehicle, is constantly about the subject that you are going to do, is constantly better. First of all, because if you're going to print something that have to be spread around the world, you know, like a book or something else, you have to be sure about the information you have to give to the people. So you cannot write bullshit or something that is in your or from your point of view. You must be objective, because what you print and what you say, it is printed forever, so it stays on the book. So if you say mistake information, that will be printed. So you have to be extremely more careful, you know, in what you say and what you declare about the subject. So that's why today is much more foggy, you know. And that's why it's so interesting that inside this box you will find a very interesting book in two languages, you know. It is made, of course, in German and in English. Being the company a German company, of course they provide something in their own language, you know. And it is also matching, you know, for the type of subject. And it is a colored book talking about the vehicle that is absolutely nicely printed, and there is a lot of nice information with nice colored pictures of the item that you are going to build up. So first of all, you have to read carefully the book and look carefully all the documentation, also to try to study the color. These are all probably repainted pictures, you know, there is not the original color. They have been surely repainted for the purpose of printing this book, you know, but gives you an idea of what's going on, you know. About the 88 gun, you will find a bunch of documentation. So you see also when they are taken by 8-ton tractors, you know, exactly like the model provided by Tamiya. So the subject is exactly the same one. What we didn't have on the market until today was the possibility to place this type of artillery gun over a vehicle like the Vomag is. You see, there is also a very well done assembled model with a guide on how to do. I still didn't read the book, so I don't know who is the maker of this type of model, but they are amazing, you know. The quality is stunning, and also the quality of the picture that you can get is absolutely something unique, you know, and it's very good that they provide it together with the box. So inside this box you have this very important critical documentation, you know, that is, in my opinion, half of the model is that. The model, there is not so much to say, is a stunning quality, you know. This is a model made in the best standard ever you can have in 2024. In my opinion, can be a little too much tricky, you know. I like so much the Tamiya models because usually they are very detailed, and then they are not so divided in minor sub-assembly parts and minor detail like those are today. Like, for example, I took all the modern truck, I didn't still place on the channel, maybe in the future I can make it, you know, about the review about the heavy trucks loading tanks, you know, made by Hobby Boss, made by Trumpeter, made by Tacom. There is several of them. I like that line of super heavy trucks, you know, and they are all in the same way. I remember that the model, for example, of from Trumpeter of the M1070, you know, the American tractor for the Abrams tank, is something like more than 1,000 pieces, you know. It became like a puzzle, you know. They are extremely long model, extremely complicated model. I will use, to be honest to you, this type of wonderful model like a therapy for my dad. He was the one still alive, old guy, you know, 90 years old, and he was the one that bring me into the hobby, and that made myself what I am today, you know. It was starting from me, so I really use this nice model like a gift to him, because I think with people a little forward in the age, this is my personal idea, you know, it's probably extremely good for their skill, for the usage of the fingers and the hands, instead of reading a book, instead of staying in front of a PC, or even worse, the television, like sometimes it happens with old people, in my opinion. And I'm talking with the heart now, you know. It's really much better if they start to do something. He makes models since a lifetime. It was a quite decent model back in the 70s, you know, and so I will give it to him to make an exercise for the skill, for the hands, you know. It's something that keep him busy for a couple of months, you know. I like so much to build this model, so probably that will be the end of this model. You will probably not see this model assembled by me, you know. It's something that I buy just with the purpose to give it to my dad, like a kind of modeling therapy, you know. You have to see modeling stuff exactly like something like that. So you have some beloved in the family that have the necessity, you know, some necessity to use the skill that they still surely have. Try with models, maybe not with something so complex like this one. I chose this one because my dad is still quite skilled in making models, so I want him to do something that he likes so much. Of course, being a modeler of the past, he is so much inside this subject from the Second World War. He was present when this stuff happened, so he was a guy from 1935, you know, also 1934. So he was a kid when this stuff arrived in Italy and he had them in the house. The model is absolutely fantastic, nothing more to say. This is still sealed, you know. The model is brand new. I just took it home. I wanted to do a quick brief review just to documentate what there is inside, but of course there is plenty of images and everything if you just Google for the name of the company. My opinion is that this is absolutely one of the nicest model ever I've seen around. A little 2-bit parts for my tastes, you know. When the models start to have millions of parts, is a little bit complicated, but you know, take your time. You can assemble that like it is. It was also funny that inside here, I think it's a 10 floor sprue, you know. There is also the subdivision of the Continental tire. This was the type of tire that was also used inside the Revel 124 model kit. You know, it's a typical Continental tire from the 40s, you know, Continental Germany. And to provide a proper pattern of the wheel, they divided every wheel, I think, in 3-4 rounds to have the pattern in the nicest detail ever. So it's extremely challenging. I think every wheel is 50 pieces, something like that. Will be fun and time consuming, you know, to keep it to an end. Quite easy also the type of painting, you know, because if you switch for an ordinary gray tone paint, of course they also provided the European one, probably made you see for the end of the war. This was the typical standard German camouflage, you know, used after 1943, so where all the vehicle became European yellow with the spot in red and green. But of course you can also paint do it to the complexity of the model completely just German gray. You see, this was from early before March 33. I think this coloration, these paintings arrived as standard since September, October 43. So still in March they were completely gray, and basically the model was basically gray, repainted in yellow. So the base is anyway a gray. That is also very, very good if you apply over your model, because it gives a pre-shading tone that is always very, very well giving the idea and the appeal of the final model. And there is billions of details, so you just have to enjoy it. And just my 2 cents is about the configuration of the vehicle being basically a truck and bus, you know, the Vomag. You have to skip the details of the track links. That usually is a kind of pain in the ass, you know, to do that stuff. Is really time consuming. I made, I think it was a Sherman, I think, where there are nearly 200 track links, and each track links was 5 pieces, so it was really a sufferance to keep it to an end. Instead with the wheels, yeah, you have to assemble a little more detailed pattern and so on, but it's anyway giving fun. The model is absolutely exceptional. Of course, they also had full detail for the mesh, for the side mesh, plus a smaller detail floating around this bag. I don't know if I did something wrong, but it was anyway running around the bag. Still there is. It's worth it. So it's, in my opinion, probably the best kit around of Second World War. This together with Tamiya height. This is just newer. That's it, guys. Fantastic model. Go for it. Thanks, and see you in the next video.